Hey everyone, welcome to the first episode of InterCast, the first ever podcast interactive strictly to Sri Lanka and Maldives. Now today is a very special day. Very special day not only because it is the first episode of InterCast, but also because of the guest who is sitting right next to me. Today's guest is one of my good friends, someone that I've been looking up to, someone that I'm really excited to sit down with, and who is definitely no stranger to an interactor. Today's guest is the one and only Murthaaz Barry. For those of you who don't know who Murthaaz is of course the district interact representative of the Interactive Secretary 220, the deputy senior prefect of Wesley College. He was also the president of the Interact Club, the Drama Society, and the English Literary Union of Wesley College. He also served as the vice president of Islamic Majlis, an assistant choir leader, a senior scout, a swimmer, and a water polo player at Wesley College. Please welcome to the show, Murthaaz Barry. Hi Murthaaz, how are you doing?
Hi Aabith, it's nice to see you, and thank you for inviting me for the first ever episode of InterCast, the first ever podcast of the Interact District 3220.
So Murthaaz, before we start, why don't you add some spice, something interesting to your introduction, something that I didn't know, something that the listeners didn't know and would love to listen to?
Okay, I think basically something interesting that people generally don't know about me is that I cook and I'm into celebrity chefs. I'm a big fan of celebrity chef Marco Pierre, and I generally like to try his recipes out at home. So generally the people at home get a lot of good food because of me. And additionally, I would also like to add the fact that I'm a big fan of the arts. I believe that the arts is a very integral part of a person's life. Whether it's, drama, film, or music, or art, or dance, those are the ways people can actually express themselves.
Life is art, yes.
So yeah, I believe that that's a very important part of anyone's life and of my life as a whole. Yeah.
So let's start off this by talking a bit about your journey from an interactor to a DIR.
Okay. So starting off as an interactor, one thing that I would like to get out there is that I never worked for that position as soon as I was a member. Because when I was a kid, one thing that my mother shared with me, she told me, and I quote, is, if you're going to do something, do it because you love it or don't do it at all. She told me never to do something to get something back from what you do. So even throughout the movement, the only thing that I ever wanted to do was to give back to it, to be able to serve so that the movement gets even better.
Yes.
And my journey actually started when I was in grade 6. I know it's pretty young, but I come from a background of Rotary and Rotary.
Yes.
So I have an idea of this movement. And then when I was in grade 6, I remember that there was something called an Interact Club at school. So I was only 11 years old, and everyone else in the club were like in grade 12s and 13s and 14s. And I remember going for my first meeting. And we have a tradition at Wesley where when you go for your first meeting, they make you stand up on a chair and they make you introduce yourself.
Okay.
So I remember they made me stand up on the chair and I told everyone, hi, I'm Murthaaz Barry and I'm interested in this and these are my favorite food. This is where I come from. And then the beauty of that tradition is at the end of every introduction, they ask you a very important question. They ask you, why did you join Interact?
Yes.
And
all the clubs do that.
Exactly. And then generally what happens is people usually say things like, they want to make friends. That's the most cliche answer that an interactor gives. But, I was a kid back then. I was like grade 6, so I was like 11 years old. So I remember standing up and I remember this memory like very vividly. And I remember saying everyone, I want to help people.
Okay.
And those words throughout my journey from grade 6 to where I am today, that same goal has been in my mind. Because as kids, we hardly get the opportunity to help people, right? Even within our classrooms, it's very rare that we get an opportunity to show humanity within ourselves. But through Interact, it keeps on giving you opportunities to actually do that. And throughout my journey from that grade 6 kid, the 11-year-old, through 9 years of Interact to where I am today, I think it has only grown that passion to serve. And I think, I owe nothing else than to the movement for who I am today and my school as well. And especially within Wesley College, we had my club and my school always kept on giving us opportunities. Despite where we came from, one thing that I really admire about my institution is despite where you come from, they all treat you the same. And that sense of equality is there. So our batch and everyone that was a part of us, even though I was grade 6 and 11-year-old, they treated me as if I was one of their own. I remember even for assemblies, I was in grade 7 or 8 when we organized an assembly once. And I think even for the souvenir, they were looking for ideas for a picture of what picture is going to go on the souvenir. And I remember drawing this small picture of a tree because it was themed on green life and stuff. And they actually ended up considering that idea. And throughout that journey, they never let me or anyone in the club feel like they were not a part of the club or not a part of that institution. So I have to be grateful for the Interact Club of Wesley College, to all the past interactors and everyone who actually forced me to be where I am today. So whatever I am today, I owe it to all of them and to my school. And
that's nice of you, Murthaaz.
Yeah.
So I think you're the right person to ask this question. Now, you are a general interactor. How was Interact back then, and what changes you see as a DIR? So 2 different perspectives, 2 different angles.
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. I think I would say, as a general interactor, you are of course limited to a certain amount of interaction, to a certain amount of service, right? And the beauty of this position, just 3 letters, DIR, the beauty of this position is it increases that opportunity on a whole other level. If you did service on this scale, the moment you keep climbing that ladder of service, and the value of this position is as such so that it gives you the opportunity of like infinity to do anything you want.
Yeah.
The beauty is the moment you achieve this position, you realize that even as an interactor, you have that ability to do that. You just have to have the courage and the audacity to take that next step. And another thing that I would like to clearly mention is, I think you've heard the story of the styrofoam cup. I'm not very sure. So there was this, I'll just relate it to it very soon. So there was this very famous individual. I'm not going to relate it verbatim, but he was a prominent individual, and he was invited to a place to give a keynote speech. So one day he goes to this place, and then he gets a first class ticket to go to that country, and he gets a first class coach to go to his hotel. As soon as he goes to his hotel, he's already been checked in. His bags have been taken to his hotel room, and he basically goes, and the next day he goes to give his speech. And as soon as he goes to give his speech, he gets this cup of coffee in a ceramic cup. Okay. And he's like, thank you for the coffee, and he enjoys his cup of coffee. He gives his speech and he goes back home. And then the following year, he was invited by the same organization to give a speech. But the previous year, he held a position. And this year, he did not. And he was, back to his regular life. And this time, there was no first class ticket if you were in economy class. He goes there, he had to take the tube to reach his hotel. As soon as he went to his hotel, he had to sign himself in. He had to carry his bags to his room. And as soon as he got the next day to his speech, he asked, can I have a cup of coffee? And then this guy points at this coffee machine there, and he's like, there's a coffee machine there, why don't you go and serve yourself? And he takes his styrofoam cup and he serves himself a cup of coffee. And he goes up to everyone and he says this story. And he says, what I realized was, my position was only as worth as a styrofoam cup.
Might have heard this. That's a very...
Exactly. So this story really inspires me, because although the position of DIR has so much value, I constantly keep reminding myself that it's only for 1 year, right? At the end of the day, what's really going to matter are the people you inspired, are the memories you make, the friends and family that we have at the end of the day. So I think that is something that keeps inspiring me as an interactor. So the main perspective of change from a general interactor to a DIR, I think, is the fact that you get to inspire more. You get this opportunity of a lifetime to actually give back to society. And it would be so stupid of me, and it would be so inhumane for me to not take maximum use of that. And also, one other thing that I want to mention is every single ounce of credit that comes to me as a DIR is something that I'm very, very shameful of accepting. I believe that whatever credit that comes, I owe it to my team, and I owe it to each and every interactor in the Interact district. Because without them, there is no movement, and there is no value of DIR.
So I'm pretty sure you must have learned a lot during the past couple of years. So this is one important thing that you must have learned in life. The most important thing that you learned in life, and how is life before?
That's a very good question, actually. So this is it's a bit personal as well, but might as well get it out I was actually saving it, someday when I was on, if I get onto either Jimmy Fallon or Graham Norton or something like that, I can share the story. But Aabith is better than any of them, I'm assuming.
Alright.
So yeah, the biggest lesson that I learned in my life, the biggest, I say it's the strongest lesson, is humility. It's to be humble. That is the biggest lesson. And how I learned this was through a real life experience that actually taught me the value of being humble. Because so this was also a real life experience where it was something that my family faced. So all the people, we come from very humble beginnings, all of us.
Yeah.
And there was this incident where once we visited where all of our cousins, I think, met up on, I think, New Year's Eve to just, meet up so that we can spend New Year's together. And I still remember the date. It was the 1st of January 2016. That was as soon as New Year has run. Yeah, I'll never forget this memory. So there was this individual, a relative of mine. I really looked up to him because he had a lot of achievements. He was, I think, the deputy head prefect of his school. He held high positions. He was a sportsman, and he was good in his education. And I really looked up to him, and I was like, one day I'm going to be like him. And that incident that happened that day taught me a whole other perspective of life. So what happened was we were all hanging out, close to New Year's Eve, and then New Year's happened and the crackers go, and then it was, past 12. And like me and I think my brother just wanted to go around, I think, Colombo on a bicycle ride. So we went to get my bicycle. And so this relative's car, it was this white car, it was parked in our garage. So basically I took my bicycle out to take it on a ride, and my brother was waiting outside for me to go on a bicycle ride. And I just kept the bicycle on a side for a while, and I turned to off the light. And for the few minutes that I turned to off the light, I heard like a sound. And as soon as I turned off the light, I realized that the bicycle fell on the car. Okay. Now, I do accept the fact the car was a brand new car, but at the end of the day, the bicycle was not that strong. So the only damage was like hardly seen. If at all, there was a small scratch, on the car. And it was the events after that showed me what the value of humility was. So after that, I think I got blasted by my relatives because it was their car, of course, and I completely accept it. It was my fault for accidentally dropping the bike there. But more than anything, what really triggered me was the fact that that cousin, that relative that I told you, who I really looked up for, his achievements. He was so perfect in every way.
Yeah.
So what he does is he comes and he scolds the living hell out of my mother. And I believe that at least if I did the fault, I deserve the scolding, and he goes and scolds my mother. And my mother is a 42-year-old adult, and he's, I think, in his 19s or 20s. And what I realized that day, life-changing, is the fact that you can have all the achievements in the world. You can go out there, you can have 3 years, you can be a head prefect, you can be a national level swimmer or a sportsman, you can have every single achievement in the world. But if you don't have that humility to respect a human being for who he is and to know how to respect another person, all of these achievements just crumble down the stack.
Exactly.
And ever since that moment, I made a vow to myself. And what memory of that day is the fact that whilst he scolded my mother, I did not do anything. I was silent because I was in shock that this individual was talking to my mother as such, And I remember crying that night, telling my mother, I'm sorry that I couldn't do anything, that I couldn't stand up for you. And she told me, I'm actually proud of you because you stood there silently like a gentleman without going to fight or without going to say anything back. And from that day onwards, I always remind myself, even when people constantly put me up on a pedestal at times, they keep putting me up, and I'm saying, no, I'm nothing. All my life I will be nothing. I will walk on this earth, I will walk down on earth as a normal human being. And no matter what, I think humility is one of the most important things for human beings. So
That's very true.
anyone out there, like my only advice is you can have nothing. Like you can even be someone that hardly has electricity in his house. You can be someone that hardly has an education. You can be someone that hardly has anything at all. You can be a no one. But as long as you have humility, as long as you're humble, trust me, you have everything in the world. Because the moment you have humility, you have the ability to respect other individuals. You have the ability to put someone else before yourself. And I believe that as long as you have that quality, it changes you. It really sets everything straight. Yeah.
So that's a really nice quality to have,
Yes.
So let me pick up something that you already told. You were talking about inspiring people, right? So I just remember this quote. The more you question yourself, the more you learn about yourself, right? So there must be something that inspires you, and there must be something within you that inspires others. What do you think it is?
Yeah, so to be very honest,
I know you've been an inspiration to many. Trust me, you have been an inspiration to many young interactors and your juniors. So, what is that something within you inspires others? And
the beauty of that question is the answer is within the question.
all right.
The only thing that inspires me is inspiration.
Okay, that's very
It's the fact that it's the fact that someone else out there is getting inspired because of me. That inspires me.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, because I have so many examples that I can give you of even recently I was shared of a screenshot of some completely unrelated matter from one of my friends. He was a part of my InterCast club as well. And at the bottom I saw but the chats that he wanted to share with me were at the top, and at the bottom I saw this small message, and that really set things in perspective. The message was, by the way, you know who Murthaaz is, right? And then the other guy replies yes, and he's like, he's my role model.
Oh my gosh.
And
that moment,
nothing else mattered at that moment. And whenever people tell me that you are my biggest inspiration, you inspire me, I would like to be like you someday, those fool me. And more than anything, those give me more opportunities to inspire people. And the beauty of inspiration is, I think inspiration is contagious. I can inspire you, and through that you can inspire someone else. And through that another person can get inspired. One of the best examples that I can give you is when I was 4 years old. I think you've heard of the Shakespeare drama competition.
Of course, yes.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest drama competitions in the country. 47 years.
And you have been the president of the drama.
Yeah, exactly. So how my journey started was when I was 4 years old. My father used to take me to the Shakespeare drama competition, and over there we used to. Even despite being 4 years old, I used to have this duty of selling souvenirs because my father was in the organizing committee, so he used to give me 10 souvenirs or 20, and I go one by one to people and I'm like, do you want a souvenir? Do you want a souvenir? And each souvenir was $100, so I collect all the money and I give it to Rotia at the end of the day. But one day, when I was, I think 5 or 6 years old, in the middle of Shakespeare, I was selling my souvenirs, and there was this auntie. So I gave her the souvenir, and she was like, how much? I was like, $100. And then she gave the cash and she took the souvenir. And then she asked me, how old are you? I was like, I'm 4 years old. Or 5, I'm not sure.
4.
Yeah, and then she was like, why aren't you on stage? And I was like, I think I'm too young to be on stage. She was like, no, you're never too young. I want to see you on that stage someday. And at that moment, it was a big revelation. And then as soon as I became a senior, that's how my journey in drama started. And
so do you remember who that auntie is?
that's the best part. I don't know who she was. All I remember is she was wearing a scarf, and I think I'm assuming she was a Muslim, and she told me that. And ironically, even this year at the Shakespeare drama competition, I was able to grasp the title of Best Actor nominee, and I got an honorary mention for my performance. And I'll never forget what that auntie told me.
So you never met the auntie?
I never met that auntie again. I've never seen her before. And that's how inspiration works.
Yeah, exactly.
The places you least expect to find it. And
anyone can inspire.
Exactly. And from my journey of drama to start from there, to end up with a nomination for Best Actor and an honorary mention, just because of one comment that person randomly told you. That's so cool, right? So that's how inspiration works, I think. And the more you express your sincere emotions to the world, the more you inspire people. I think that would be how I would say.
Okay, so also talking about being productive. I know for a fact that most of us are finding it difficult to answer this specific question. I just wanted to ask it to you. I'm just curious, how did you keep yourself productive during lockdown?
I'll tell you one thing is, I caught up all the sleep that I missed in the last 5 years, I think.
Okay, that's
This
one way
lockdown.
of being
Like,
productive.
I probably slept like a log for so long. But more than anything, I think on a very honest perspective, I think lockdown, although, there are negative aspects to it, people are dying out there and, there is whole negative aspect of COVID. But on a very true and a real perspective, I think it gave us a lot of time to actually set ourselves into perspective. Because before lockdown, I don't think any of us actually, personally, I didn't know where I wanted to go with my life. We were all in this, like, to be honest, it's like a rat race. You see, like before lockdown, probably our parents like work all the time at work, and we're all the time at school. And not only at school, we have other activities, so we're always at school. Like sometimes I don't see my mom or dad for weeks.
Exactly.
Either because of work so like even I remember during drama, we do shakes and we'll practice at nights those days, and for like 2 weeks I had not seen my mother, and the day I saw my mother was on my performance. So like things got so hectic, and especially individuals like you, I think, who are involved with a lot of activities, like we tend to get so caught up, right? And I think we were in this subconscious rat race, either A-levels or O-levels, or even kids, grade 6, 7, they want to get their marks straight. So, what lockdown did was it stopped that race. It was like, hold up, take a breath, you need some time to relax and get yourself on track again. And through that, I think I had a lot of good times during lockdown, because mainly I got a lot of time to spend with my family. That's one of the biggest things, because back in the day we hardly met up for a cup of tea in the evening, but very rarely do we meet because we were all so busy. My dad and mom both work. My mom is a teacher, my dad's a banker, my brother, sister also involved in our activities. It was very hectic. But the moment lockdown happened, like every evening now we have cups of tea in the balcony, just talking about life, making each other laugh, annoying the hell out of each other. And I think at the end of the day, those are the memories that you remember, right? You don't remember the trips that you go to, you don't remember the big things.
That is very true.
You only remember those small moments you have with your family. So I think productive in that way, and also more than anything, it helped ourselves to think, to get our lives straight, to actually, work on a certain level and to see where we want to go with our lives and what we want to do. Yeah. I think that's how lockdown helped, to be honest, productive.
So, before wrapping things up, is there anything I should have asked you but I missed? Is there this one question you wished I asked for?
I think one question that I would have wished you to ask me was probably if I'm grateful for anyone for where I am today and what I have to do. The only answer that I give you is whatever I am today is not because of me, because it's because of so many people. Firstly, like I have to, more than anything, thank Almighty God, because more than anything, when no one was there for me throughout my life, consistently the Almighty has been there. So regardless of anything, He has guided me and He has been there for me when no one was. So it was always easy when things got tough, and that faith always kept me going. And more than anything, I think I owe nothing more to my family, because my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, like, unless, not like an orthodox family, like a traditional family, we're all like friends. There's no filter in our house. We talk about anything. We tease our parents regarding the most vulgar jokes are inside those four walls, and it's always about annoying one person and teasing each other. So it was super fun. And more than anything, they trusted me with a lot of things. My parents always tell me, we don't mind if you we're not here to tell you what to do with your life. It's your life. You do what you want, even if it's your results, we're not going to force you for anything. Whatever result you get, at the end of the day, you're still our son. And that's what inspires me actually, to actually keep striving in life more than anything, so that I can give something back to them. Because they never forced anything on me. They never told me we wanted to be an engineer. I think you were saying.
So this junction is code. Yeah. Either a doctor, a lawyer, or a failure.
Or a failure, yeah. So they never told me to be a doctor or a lawyer, and they never titled me as a failure either. So they trusted me with that trust, and through my life, I always wanted to keep that trust. And even my brother and sister, they are my biggest inspirations, because my brother and sister, they put things into perspective for me. Because whenever I'm troubled, I just have to have a talk with them. And even like my sister would, whenever I'm finding it difficult, she'd make a cup of tea and bring it. She'd have a chat with me, and my brother will give practical solutions to all these issues. And additionally, I think I'm very grateful to my school because I believe even you, Zahir, College, Super Institution, we're all grateful to our schools in some way because it's a part of us. And especially
If it wasn't for our school, we would have been.
exactly, not only in Interact but even in our lives. Yeah. So like Wesley College always taught me to be humble. Even in our school, usually the senior prefect, I think generally considered head prefect, is given to the person who balances his studies and academics and sports and stuff, right? But at Wesley, in addition to that, they look for one main quality, and that is humility. They look to see if you're humble, and generally the senior prefect is given to the most humble boy, schoolboy in school. And even the current senior prefect, one of my good friends, is one of the most humble people I know. So throughout my life, I've always been taught at Wesley to be humble, no matter where you go. That's what I'm saying. Like any other school out there might be good in studies, sports, activities. But if you want your children to be humble individuals, my best suggestion is at Wesley College, you get that experience. And they taught me the value of unity because despite where you came from, you have the Sinhalese, the Tamil, the Muslim, and the Christian eating from the same bakka at the end of the day. And we always loved each other despite where we came from. We were united, and that taught me about how the world worked. And when I left that, every time I left school gates and went to Interact or went to work or went outside those four walls, I was within that mindset to actually, that this is how the world should be. People with humility and people who work together despite where we come from.
Exactly.
So that's really beautiful. And I'm also grateful to the council, y'all. I mean, I really just want to get this out there. Please don't give me any credit for whatever the Interact district has done so far. There are people all over who are working super hard.
Also remember,
yeah, even the people behind the cameras. Whatever that is of the Interact movement is not me at all. It's all of them. And if at all, I probably just told them, I just gave them a green light to do what they wanted to do, but it was their hard work and their ideas and their mentality. Even Aabith, super hard worker. Like, trust me, you will never find an individual like Aabith here. I'm very grateful to the Interact Council, to the Rotarians, to the Rotary District, Road Track District, and the Interact District at the end of the day. Because three things that Interact taught me. One thing was, it taught me to serve above self. It taught me to put someone else above myself. Secondly, it taught me the true value of people. Like now, although Aabith here is in the same team, I personally always looked at him as a friend, and we always worked together to get things done. And that value of friendship, camaraderie always comes through Interact. And last but not the least, I think Interact helps you to build yourself. And the fact that you get to improve yourself through various opportunities really, really helps you grow as an individual. So grateful to the Interact movement and all my friends and acquaintances and everyone who has been there for me, regardless of anything. I'm grateful to each and every one of them. So whatever I am today is because of them, and I think more than anything, they deserve that sense of ownership of that gratitude that I get towards anything.
So, alright guys, that was the first episode of InterCast, and thank you so much, Murthaaz, for joining us, regardless of your busy schedule. So, I'm sure we had a lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And not to forget, a very big shout out to Caramel Pumpkin for providing us this amazing location for the shoot. Thank you for listening, and I'd love to see if you can share your favorite tips and insights, favorite things that you learned from this session, or anything at all in the comment section. And also, thank you so much for listening. Talk about it on social media, post about it on social media. To catch the latest from us, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok. And this is what we do, service about self. I'm Aabith. I'll see you next time.